Hey guys, so recently I released my video where I shared a few of my thoughts on this camera, the GoPro Hero 8. And I don't know if you remember, but in that video I talked about how excited I was to eventually get my hands on a 360 camera. Because after watching a few other people's videos, I was just blown away by the possibilities that they open up, especially when paired with an FPV drone. Well, shortly after I released that video, Insta360 actually got in touch with me, asking if I want to test out their newest action camera, the One-R, which happens to come with a 360 lens. Now, if you're even remotely interested in action cameras, you've probably seen reviews for this thing flooding YouTube for the past few months. But if you haven't, it's an action camera that's unique due to its modular design with swappable lenses, flippable touchscreen, and these modules that can be purchased and replaced separately without having to replace your whole camera. It's an interesting approach. I want to quickly mention that they are not sponsoring this video, and I made it very clear that the only way I would accept this camera is if I can voice my complete honest opinion, and they said that was fine, so here we are, the Insta360 One-R. Now, the version I got was the Twin Edition, which comes with this 360 lens, similar to the GoPro Max, and this more traditional wide-angle lens, similar to the one on my GoPro Hero 8. So I've been playing around with this camera for a few weeks now, and today I want to share with you guys a few of my thoughts on both of these lenses, and especially see whether or not this could replace my current camera as my primary FPV action cam. Alright, so I want to start by sharing my experience with the 360 lens first, because that's what I was most excited to try out. As you can see, the lens is actually two separate lenses, one on the front and one on the back. The way it works is that each of these lenses can capture 180 degrees, and then the two sides are stitched together to create one video file that you can then play around with and reframe in post-production. Now, the trickiest part was to just figure out how to actually mount it onto an FPV drone, because the camera will clearly work best if it's completely unobscured in every direction. So, at first, I tried to mount it in the kind of traditional way, right at the front, but like I suspected, the back camera ended up being blocked a little bit too much by the battery. Now, with this setup, you can still get a look back style shot or a spinning shot like this, but it's definitely not an ideal placement. I figured that the best place to mount it would be somewhere completely above or below all the other components. That way I could at least pan the camera, pan it 360 degrees and tilt it 180 degrees without the quad actually getting in frame. Anyways, I ended up going with the top mounted position so that the drone would at least be a little bit easier to land. And I'm warning you right now, my solution wasn't pretty and it was very temporary, but to get it out in the field as quickly as possible, I ended up putting the camera in its cage and using a classic GoPro mount that I then stuck directly onto my battery using 3M foam mounting tape. Then I used the same strap that I used for my battery to strap them both down tightly. It seems risky, but along with the Velcro that I used to keep my battery from moving around, it actually feels very secure. And it worked really well. Here are some sample shots I was able to get. The coolest thing is that all of these effects are pretty easy to do. First of all, Insta360 has a phone app, which is incredibly intuitive and simple. And they also have a standalone software, which maybe is a little bit less intuitive, but also allows you to be more precise with your edits and lets you export higher resolutions. Once you get the hang of it though, you could probably come up with a pretty cool edit in 5 to 10 minutes. I loved that because if I'm being completely honest, I don't particularly love the editing process when making videos. I like the creativity of it, but it's just such a tedious process that requires so much sitting down at a desk for such long periods of time that I just wish it could be sped up a little bit. Which is why I was really surprised that my favorite part was actually editing the 360 videos. And the reason for that was just because of how much faster the process of taking the ideas from your head and making it happen was. It really caused me to just pick up my camera way more often than I normally would, just to film my daily life and make a cool video out of it later. I'm not gonna say that the possibilities are endless because that sounds a little bit cliche, but there's just so much more you can do when you have so many angles that you can film in. Now, when using the 360 mod, I did note that there were a few main things to be mindful of. The first one being the stitching. Although the camera does a pretty good job at stitching the two halves together, it isn't always perfect. So when you're planning your shots, it's definitely a good idea to make sure that your main subject isn't directly to the side or above your camera. The camera will do a good job at stitching background elements, but when it comes to more complicated objects like someone's face or anything else with just more smaller details, it might be a little bit more noticeable. The second thing is with any 360 camera, because your lenses protrude away from the camera body itself, you have to take extra precautions not to scratch the lenses. Especially because since you're able to reframe your image in post, any scratches, dirt, or fingerprints on your lens will appear to move across your image, making them a lot more obvious than they would be on a traditional lens. So far so good though. I don't have any permanent scratches on the lens yet, and I hope it stays that way because I really do love using this thing. And for anybody thinking about getting into 360 video, I really think this camera would make a great purchase. But for those of us who fly FPV, can the One-R also completely replace our current action cameras? Is it a viable alternative to the GoPros that most of us are currently using? Well, that's what I want to test out for myself in the second half of this review. And without further ado, let's get into it. So next, I want to talk about the 4K mod, which is a wide-angle lens that converts your One-R into a more traditional style of action camera. Now, up until this point, GoPros have been the action camera brand of choice for most FPV pilots, so I want to test for myself how exactly the One-R stacks up in comparison. Starting with a look at the camera bodies themselves, you can see that the One-R is a tiny bit bigger than the Hero 8, but is surprisingly a few grams lighter, weighing in at around 120 grams, while the Hero 8 is around 127 grams. When it comes to the construction of each camera, the Hero 8 has a traditional unibody design, and the front and the back are bordered with a dense rubbery material that seems like it might be somewhat useful for dampening impacts. When it comes to the One-R, it's mostly plastic, and again is modular and can be disassembled. Now, I personally like to mount my action cameras using a strap like this, which makes it really easy for me to swap between different sizes of cameras, and also makes it super simple to just make minor adjustments to my camera angle. At first, this made me a little bit nervous to use the One-R, because I thought if I was to strap it in the same way and get in a crash, the pieces might break apart, making them harder to find. However, the reason I'm comfortable mounting my cameras this way in the first place is because I don't fly a lot of freestyle, and if I did, I'd probably mount them using something like this instead, which would do a much better job at keeping the camera secure and in one piece. In that case, I realized that the fact that it's modular could possibly become a benefit, because if you broke any part of the camera, which, let's be honest, will most likely be the lens, you would only have to find a replacement for that piece instead of buying a whole new camera. Now, I will quickly mention that both GoPro and Insta360 have services available that will give you some sort of warranty on their cameras, and I'll link both of them down below for those of you interested. For the sake of the length of this video, I'm not going to explain them in detail, but I do want to say that neither of them are ideal, and if you're crashing a lot, it's inevitable that you will end up paying for replacements. So in those situations, if you have the option to buy the module separately, you might be able to save a little bit of money. The other cool thing about the One-R being modular is that you can decide whether or not you want the screen on the back or on the front. I think this is cool because if you paired it with a mount similar to this that left the screen exposed, you'd be able to change your settings and make quick adjustments while the camera is already mounted on the drone without your screen being hidden by the battery or the mount. That being said, the screen on the One-R is much smaller than the one on the Hero 8, and you can't see quite as much detail. I've also found that the touchscreen on the GoPro is generally a little bit more responsive and accurate, so there is a trade-off. Next, one big thing that was a disappointment on the Hero 8 was the fact that it no longer had replaceable lens covers. Being able to replace the lens covers was a huge money saver, especially since a lot of freestylers deal with heavy impact crashes regularly. This is the reason why if I'm just messing around or practicing my freestyle, I will still mostly always use my Hero 5. Even though the glass on the Hero 8 is supposed to be reinforced and much stronger, the day it eventually breaks is still going to suck if I have to buy a new camera. Now, if you look at the One-R, I'm almost positive that the lens cover is removable. It even has a little tab on the side that can probably be used to pry it off. However, I tried to do a search online, and for the time being, I couldn't find any replacements for sale anywhere. I contacted Insta360, and they said they have a repair service available if these ever break, which I believe was GoPro's official take on it as well. However, if they or any third party started selling lens replacements for this camera online, I think that would give the One-R a huge benefit in the future. So each of these cameras has unique features that make them stand out, and will ultimately be up to personal preference. But the most important question is, how do they actually perform? On paper, if I quickly compare each camera's specs, when filming in 4K, both cameras shoot up to 60 frames per second, which is the maximum frame rate I typically shoot in. If you're someone interested in slow-mo shots or want a higher frame rate, you'd have to scale down the resolution on both cameras, with the GoPro slightly outperforming the One-R, being able to do 120 frames per second versus 100 frames per second in 2.7K, and 240 frames per second versus 200 frames per second in 1080p. Both cameras then have the same bitrate capability of 100 megabits per second, so in terms of their main specs, they come pretty close. If we look at some sample footage, the image from the Hero 8 seems to generally have a higher contrast and is more saturated than the One-R footage. I also noticed that my GoPro footage looks a little bit sharper. I think the reason for this is because I have my sharpness set to medium, while the One-R seems to only have one sharpness setting. This isn't really a problem because it's more of a preference and is something that you could always add in post-production, but it is nice that GoPro gives you the option to do it in camera. When the cameras are set to their log or flat color modes, the One-R's image is slightly flatter. This should allow it to preserve a bit more detail in the highlights and shadows, and will give more flexibility when color correcting. Another key feature that many people look for in an action camera is stabilization, and each camera has its own internal stabilization system. The Hero 8 has Hypersmooth, and the One-R has Flow State. On their own, both Hypersmooth and Flow State do a fantastic job at stabilizing your footage, and I'd say that the end results are comparable. Although I didn't have a way to mount both cameras side by side on my drone, I'll show you two very similar clips so that you can kind of get a comparison. Now, one cool feature that the One-R has is the ability to toggle stabilization on or off in post-production. So I can actually play you back the exact same footage with stabilization on or off so that you can see what difference it makes. Not only that, but you can also change the width of your shot in post-production as well. I think this is really innovative because if you're ever watching back your footage and wish you shot it wider or narrower, you can literally change that with the click of a button in either the Insta360 software or their plugin for Premiere Pro. Back to stabilization though, the Hero 8 does still have a few advantages. The first one being the addition of Hypersmooth Boost. Boost provides even more stabilization than both regular Hypersmooth and Flow State, allowing for some very fluid camera movements, but with the compromise of a slightly more cropped image. The biggest advantage I noticed though is that the Hero 8 did seem to be a little bit better at filtering out vibrations than the One-R. Anytime my quad was flying perfectly, both cameras looked great, but whenever I would get any oscillations, I noticed that they were a bit more visible on the One-R footage. Now, you might be able to make these disappear with a good tune, an ND filter, and locked shutter speed, but even with a perfectly tuned quad, I feel like the extra buffer that the Hero 8 gives could be a really big deal for a lot of FPV pilots focused on cinematics. So, those are my main thoughts on the performance of each camera. But there are two other elements that I saved for last, which in my opinion are the biggest selling factors for each of them. And for GoPro, that's RealSteady Go. For those of you who haven't used it, RealSteady Go is a third-party stabilization software that many FPV pilots love. Although it is personal preference, in my opinion, it does a much better job at stabilizing footage than both Hypersmooth and Flow State when it comes to cinematic FPV. Currently, the software is only capable of stabilizing GoPro footage, and because the company was recently acquired by GoPro, I have a feeling that it will not become compatible with Insta360 footage in the future. For some, this could be a deal breaker. For Insta360 though, the advantage is the cost and the value for your money. If you were only looking to get a wide-angle action camera, both the One-R and the GoPro Hero 8 cost around $300. However, if you were thinking about getting a 360 camera, the GoPro Max alone costs $500, while the One-R Twin Edition costs $480, and you get both the 360 camera and the wide angle. I haven't had the opportunity to try the GoPro Max to know exactly how it compares, but I do absolutely love using the One-R's 360 mod, and I would definitely pay that price for this camera alone. The fact that it comes with the 4K mod, which don't get me wrong, is still a really great camera, is pretty sweet. Also, if you wanted to buy both GoPro cameras together, you'd end up spending around $800, which is a pretty big difference. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point. If you guys enjoyed it, please give it a like. It really does help a lot. Feel free to subscribe if you guys want more content. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.